Imagine waking up tomorrow with a fever. You would likely reach for medicine or call your doctor. You might even text your friends about how you feel while you lie on the couch watching your favorite series.
Now, imagine that same fever 50,000 years ago. No medicine, no doctor.
There is a real possibility that whatever is burning through your body will end your life before the sun sets.
And yet, somehow, your ancestors survived. They did not just survive one plague or one infection, they survived all of them.
For hundreds of thousands of years, across every continent and climate, they faced every possible biological nightmare the planet could throw at them.
This raises a fascinating question. How did early humans deal with disease when they had absolutely nothing we would recognize as medicine? When the most advanced surgical tool available was just a sharp rock, the answer is simultaneously more brutal, clever, and surprising than you think. Before we talk about how they survived disease, we need to understand what diseases they were actually dealing with, because this is where things get interesting. Most people assume that ancient life was just one giant cesspool of infection, but that is a bit of a misconception. The diseases that killed ancient humans were actually quite different from the ones that would come to devastate civilizations later.
Early hunter-gatherer groups were small, often consisting of only 20 to 105 people, constantly moving across landscapes.
This simple fact had enormous consequences for what diseases could and could not do, as pathogens require hosts to survive.
If your social group is small and isolated, a highly contagious pathogen has a serious logistical problem in finding new hosts.
It burns through its available hosts too fast, and then the virus has nowhere to go because the group is too small. This is why catastrophic crowd diseases like smallpox or measles did not really exist as major threats during the Paleolithic era. Those diseases required dense, sedentary populations to sustain themselves, which hunter-gatherers simply did not have.
Hunter-gatherers essentially had the right conditions to avoid mass epidemic disease, which is an unappreciated advantage of their lifestyle.
What they did face were parasites, wound infections, and respiratory illnesses, which were constant, low-level threats.
They dealt with various fungal infections and the ever-popular category of "something bit me and now my arm is turning a concerning color."
Their first line of defense against all of this was not medicine, it was behavior, a concept that genuinely blew my mind.
Behavioral immunity. The idea is simple but profound. Before the immune system has to fight a pathogen, behavior can prevent it from entering.
Humans, along with many other animals, evolved a suite of automatic behavioral responses that served as a kind of biological early warning system. You already experience this every single day, by the way. That instinctive revulsion you feel when you smell rotting food? Behavioral immunity. The disgust response you have when you see something visually contaminated, a festering wound, mold, or feces, is behavioral immunity.
These are not culturally learned responses. They are biological. Studies have shown that even infants display disgust reactions to pathogen risk.
For ancient humans, this system was crucial. Avoiding contaminated water sources, not eating spoiled meat, and keeping away from sick individuals. Not handling the bodies of the recently deceased without some form of protection or ritual. All these behaviors reduce disease transmission.
And there is fascinating archaeological evidence for this. Burial practices appear remarkably early in the human record.
Neanderthals, who are not even fully modern humans, show evidence of intentional burial. Ancient humans also moved constantly, and this mattered enormously for sanitation. A group that stays in one place starts accumulating waste. Accumulating waste means contaminating local water and food sources. Contaminated water and food means gastrointestinal disease, which in a world without rehydration salts could very easily kill you. Then there is the question of food preparation. Fire. Glorious civilization-creating, bacteria-annihilating fire. Cooking food kills pathogens. It renders meat that would otherwise be a vector for parasites and bacteria into something substantially safer to eat. The controlled use of fire dates back at least 400,000 years, and some researchers push that estimate much further back. The moment ancient humans started consistently cooking their food, they fundamentally changed their relationship with a whole category of foodborne illness.
Observe how the single cell divides, multiplying exponentially.
Soon, these cells form the basic structure. Okay, so behavior gets you pretty far, but inevitably, pathogens get through. And when they do, ancient humans relied on something that is the immune system. I know, you have heard about the immune system, but I want to take a second to make sure we appreciate just how insane it actually is. Because people tend to take it completely for granted. Your immune system can recognize roughly 1 billion distinct molecular shapes. It maintains a memory of every pathogen it has ever encountered. It can distinguish between your own cells and foreign invaders at a molecular level.
It deploys specialized cells with different tactical functions. Some that immediately attack anything foreign, some that wait and gather intelligence.
And it runs continuously, automatically, without any conscious input from you whatsoever, while you are watching YouTube videos and forgetting to drink enough water. For ancient humans, this system was doing the same thing it does for you. The difference was that it was being stress tested against a vastly wider range of environmental challenges.
From birth, without any safety net. This had an enormous evolutionary consequence: selection pressure. Individuals whose immune systems responded effectively to the pathogens present in their environment survived and reproduced.
Over thousands of generations, this created populations with genuinely robust immune responses to the specific threats in their specific environments. There is a striking modern illustration of this principle. When European colonizers arrived in the Americas, they brought with them pathogens, smallpox, measles, influenza, against which indigenous Americans had no prior exposure and therefore no evolved immunity.
The death toll was catastrophic. Estimates range from 50 to 90% of the pre-contact population dying within a century and a half. They had been optimized for a completely different disease environment. That same brutal logic of selection operated throughout all of human prehistory.
The populations that made it through were, in a very real sense, the ones who had already survived the diseases that existed in their world. Surviving was, quite literally, in their DNA. Now we get to the part that is genuinely surprising to most people. Ancient humans did not just passively survive disease through behavior and immune response. They actively, deliberately tried to treat illness with plants. This sounds primitive. It is not. The pharmacological diversity of plant life on Earth is staggering. Plants have been locked in chemical warfare with bacteria, fungi, insects, and herbivores for hundreds of millions of years. In the process, they have evolved an extraordinary arsenal of bioactive compounds, molecules that can kill microbes. Many of the drugs we use today are either directly derived from plants or are synthetic versions of plant compounds. Aspirin comes from salicylic acid, found in willow bark. Morphine and codeine come from the opium poppy.
Ancient humans figured out, through observation, experimentation, and frankly a lot of trial and error, which plants in their environment had useful properties. At a Neanderthal burial site called Shanidar Cave in Iraq, pollen analysis suggested that flowers may have been placed with the body.
More concrete evidence comes from analysis of ancient dental calculus, the hardened plaque on ancient teeth. Scientists have been able to extract plant compounds.
One particularly fascinating case involved a Neanderthal from El Cedrón Cave in Spain. Dental calculus analysis.
The individual also showed signs of a dental abscess, which is extraordinarily painful. The researchers suggested this Neanderthal may have been self-medicating.
Let that sink in for a second. A Neanderthal with a toothache, roughly 50,000 years ago, possibly treating their own pain with plants.
By the time we reach fully modern humans and the beginning of recorded history, plant-based medicine is sophisticated, systematic, and deeply embedded in every culture.
Here is something that modern medicine is only recently beginning to properly appreciate. Social connection is medicine, not metaphorically, literally. Loneliness is associated with elevated cortisol, impaired immune function, increased inflammation, and dramatically worse outcomes for people. Conversely, strong social bonds, feeling supported, connected, cared for, measurably improve immune function. Ancient humans lived in tight social groups. The side effect of that tight social structure was that sick individuals were rarely alone. They had people around them, people who would bring food, provide warmth, maintain some level of care. This matters more than it sounds.
Social care is, in the most literal sense, a medical intervention. Ancient healing practices also embedded the treatment of illness within the community.
They did not just survive by luck. They survived through accumulated wisdom, behavioral adaptation. They survived because the ones who did not were no longer there to pass anything on. That iterative process is exactly what produced the humans we are today.